everyone, Ivy League Gaming here. Today we're talking about Raid Shadow Legends, of course, and we're going to go over some of the highlights for update 4.7. I wanted to get this out right away to make sure that you guys don't miss out on the details. I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about some of this. There's some really great improvements here that I'm actually quite excited for, besides the champion rebalances, which we can talk about that quickly. All right, let's get to it. Hey Raiders, we're ironing out the final creases before update 4.7 goes live, but we're ready to share some of the details with you. This time, you can expect to see several cool quality of life improvements and a champion rebalance to address some of the most immediate PvP and PvE troubles. Read on to find out more. Boss guides. First of all, we're introducing a neat little feature that'll let you, whether you're a green newbie or a grizzled veteran, learn more about the various bosses and how to beat them before you get into a fight. Every dungeon, every boss stage in the Doom Tower, faction wars, and even clan boss battles will feature a special pop-up that contains a full description of the boss's skills and overall strategy you'll need to deal with them. The pop-up menu will be accessible via a special button on the battle selection screen. If that alone isn't enough, the second tab will feature a list of teams of the week, as the name suggests, where were the most successful in dealing with particular boss. With this feature, you'll be able to plan and adjust your teams before entering a difficult battle, and we hope it will make the experience a lot smoother. I'm really excited for this part. I mean, this is something that every game should have in general. Like, when you go to fight a boss, you should be able to see its skills beforehand. You should be able to prepare properly, and of course, it'd be nice to see things like what they're resistant to. A lot of games don't do it, whenever they do, I'm certainly appreciative. I'm glad they're going to actually add this directly in the game. Of course, you can still watch your favorite YouTubers, people on Twitch and whatnot, and see what others are doing. I'm very curious to see what they're going to use for samples of those teams and strategies. It'll be interesting to see if they mention any of like the solo builds or not. It'll be fun to see. All right. On to champion rebalances. We've already talked about this in our last video. I'm sure you've already seen a lot of conversation about it all over the interwebs. There's not a lot of excitement here. Tila's not that much better. Pixneal still takes way too many books to be worth using, but it's everything's an improvement, of course. Tomb Lord, I'm hoping that makes my runs faster. Basilius seems like he's going to be great, honestly, and AoE stun is fantastic. But nothing is like super game breaking, except for sadly breaking Eurogrim. I know a lot of people have him and they built him very specifically for soloing some bosses, and they kind of destroyed him. It was expected. He was too broken. This is only fair. I'm sure if you have Eurogrim and you wasted your resources, you're not too happy with this. But honestly, he was too overpowered for being an epic. He shouldn't be better than someone like Bad Alcazar. So it's only fair. He should have been nerfed a little bit earlier, though, and before it was too late, where everyone's already invested their resources. Of course, Raid also needs to be better. Our Plarium needs to be better about actually refunding our resources, too. There's no way that it's not fair that when they decide to change champions and they are no longer useful for us in certain areas, that we don't get our books back or some sort of resource back. They need to develop something in that, or they're going to make everyone's been unhappy about that for a long time. This is just another example of we should get our books back, right? I mean, I don't have them, but you guys should get your books back. All right, we've got another look at this little miscellaneous that almost went unnoticed. Artifact and accessory storage will receive 300 additional slots, guys. Woo! That's almost more exciting than the champion rebalances, right? I mean, I don't need that much for accessories. I'm pretty picky, but artifacts, the more sets they add, the harder it is to keep a little bit of everything. So happy for that for sure. Looks like we also have a couple of new champions. Sigmund the High Shield. We got a Magic Defense Bannerlord. I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly. Attacks one enemy, removes shield buffs, also has a 50% chance of removing one random buff, has a 75% chance instead when attacking bosses. And that buffs up to 100% chance. Nice. So he's going to remove 2 buffs, while 1 if there's not a shield. All right. Attacks. Let's see. A2 attacks all enemies 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing provoke debuff for 1 turn and a 75% chance of placing 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Double AoE. Nice. That's great. Cooldown 3 turns. Okay. Then on A3, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of this champion's max HP. Also places a 25% strengthen buff on all allies for 2 turns. Strengthen is a great debuff. That looks down to 3-turn cooldown as well. That's a solid ability there. That's really going to be helpful. I mean, it sounds like someone you might be able to pair with your Seer team in Doom Tower. Also will be great for Faction Wars if you still haven't completed that. And then passive here, whenever this champion is attacked, has a 20% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Has a 40% chance instead when attacked by a boss. Doom Tower aura of increased defense by 40%. Alright, and we got the hunger. Alright, spirit support demon spawn. A1 attacks 1 enemy, 30% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Looks up to 40%. A2 places a reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 1 turn, then heals all allies by 15% of their max HP. A3 revives 2 random allies with 50% HP, then fills their turn meter by 50%. And then Faction Wars, I was going to say, this is a Faction War champ right here. Faction Wars defense aura. So this is a great option if you're not lucky enough to have a Duchess on your account and you're still struggling with Faction Wars. He's going to be a great option there to get a couple revives, some healing, turn meter manipulation. Fills the turn meter, never mind. Take that back. Fills the turn meter just when healing or reviving. Yeah, I can't talk. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Sorry. It's the morning for me, guys. Can you tell? Onward. Thylesia? Thylesia. I think that's how you say her name. She looks really freaking cool. Alright. Epic Force Attack Night Rev. Cool. She looks really cool. I'm curious. I can't wait to see her design. Alright. Attacks 1 enemy. Has 50% chance applying a debuff spread effect, taking 1 random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies under Hex debuff. Someone to pair with Hex champions. Alright, getting some more of that Hex out there. Attacks all enemies, increases the duration of all debuffs on all enemies by 1 turn. Nice, that's just like Arbiter's A2. A3 is attacks all enemies, places a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So this is a 100% chance to land. Of course, they can still be resisted, but great. Just a straight places. It's great. All right. And that's cooldown is 3 turns. And then passive when attacking enemies under decreased defense debuff has a 50% chance of placing a Hex debuff on them for 2 turns. All right, so she can place her own Hex debuffs. It takes a little bit of setup though. Or she needs to be paired with another person that's doing decreased defense, I guess, or another person that's doing Hex to really be able to take advantage of her other skills. But interesting kit there. It'll be fun to see her in action. Scabrius, we have, it looks like a rat. Magic attack Skinwalker. A1, 50% chance of attacks 1 enemy, 50% chance of placing a 5% poison for 2 turns. A2 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. That books down to a 3-turn cooldown with leech. That's still a little bit risky if you're going to use him as a clan boss champion. You really got to make sure leech is up often. So this is going to be one of those things that he's going to need to be in like relentless gear probably to be able to take more turns in order to keep that leech properly up. Alright, and we got the A3. Attacks 1 enemy has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weakened debuff for 2 turns. Also places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns if the weakened debuff is placed. And then his passive, increased damage by 20% when attacking enemies under poison debuffs. This is an interesting kit here. I almost wish it didn't have leech and instead it had like decreased defense or some other type of utility that could work in an unkillable team. Increased damage when attacking because he's an attack-based champion. If you're going to be building him For Clan Boss, with a traditional style team where you're going to be needing that leech, you're going to be having him built defensively to stay alive. You're not going to be building him with high attack to do damage. So I think this champion is honestly best in an unkillable comp, and turning off the A2 to not place leech would be fun to try and see how he does damage-wise. Alright, Demitha? We're gonna go with Demitha. Alright, Void Support Dwarf. Now she looks like she's got a really cool look too. Can't wait to see her full skin. Attacks one enemy 2 times, places a shield buff for 2 turns equal to 10% of this champion's max HP on the ally with the lowest HP. Or A2 increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, then decreases the duration of all ally debuffs by 1 turn. Oh, that's awesome. Also heals all allies by 2.5% of their max HP. Heals by a further 2.5% max HP for each turn added to or removed from the duration of buffs and debuffs by this skill. Jesus, that's a freaking mouthful. Alright, well, she heals. Let's just move on. A3 places a block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn and a 15% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. Another great support for Dwarf Faction Wars if anyone's stuck. We'll have to see where else, I don't know. Interesting kit. We got a ally defense in all battles aura. And that's where we have it. Alright guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Which champions excite you the most here? Let me know your thoughts if they align with me, like, I don't know about this rat being used anywhere else except an unkillable comp. Unless he is abnormally high defense and is easy to keep alive. And build a little bit of attack on him for Clan Boss. Thylesia. Super cool, can't wait to see her. I think I'm most excited for more artifact storage, yay! Alright, thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in another video.